every year Chav Beis Shvat, I have to talk about the Rebbetzin, right? But I get to choose what. There's a lot of different topics. And I decided this year that I'm doing this volume of letters. What we're about to do is absolutely mind-blowing. It's just wonderful. The date of this letter is sometime in 1929. You got to figure, 7 months after the wedding, 8 months after the wedding. The Rebbe and the Rebbe married in Kislev. This letter was probably written in Over Elul the same year, and it reads, quote, His boinen heitev, the Friedrich Rebbe is writing to our Rebbe, okay? His boinen heitev, contemplate well, Mehar Melgolis Taiva, of the Behar Melgolis, in the good pearl, Asher Nasan L'choha Alikim, that God has given you, La'erech Yom V'shanim Tevis, for long days and years. V'chal Tuv, Begashmis Beruchnis, which includes all good physically and spiritually. V'Hashem Yizbarach Yiten L'cha Chochma Bina Vadas. The Friedrich writing to our Rebbe. Hashem should give you Chochma Bina Vadas, Lahavin Ha'in Al Buriya, to understand this matter thoroughly, but Emes Lamita with absolute truth. Okay? The Friedrich Rebbe is writing to the Rebbe in code. Think about the precious pearl which God gave you, which has all the brachas in it, and I'm giving you a bracha that you should have Chochma Bina Das, to understand this gift thoroughly. And he says twice, Be'emes Lamita. The Friedrich Rebbe says to the Rebbe, God gave you a gift. It's the kind of gift that it takes Chabad to understand. I give you a bracha to have the Chabad to understand this gift. So the Rebbe writes back 6 months later, quote, Ve'echas umuhus hamargolis toiva, the quality and the substance of the precious pearl that you wrote about 6 months ago, terem ivanti pirushay ma'u. I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, wait. Not finished. So there's another letter. It's dated sometime in 1930 in Adar. Girls, listen carefully. You listening? Yes or no?
Yes.
The precious pearl that Hashem has given you, that the Rebbe tells the Rebbe, you have to have Chochma Bina V'das to understand. Hibiti Rayos Chakavod Tichya is my daughter, your wife. The Friedrich Rebbe writes to the Rebbe, you have to think about what David gave you, and the Friedrich Rebbe tells the Rebbe, you have to have Chochma Bina V'das to appreciate what you have. And the Rebbe says, I don't know what you're talking about. So the Friedrich says, I mean my daughter. That was my intention in all my letters, and you didn't understand because you didn't pay enough attention to my words. The Friedrich Rebbe wrote twice. In 2 different letters, he writes to the Rebbe, do you appreciate the pearl that Hashem gave you, and Hashem should give you Chochma Bina Das to understand it? And the Rebbe says, I don't know what you're talking about. So after 2 tries, I mean the Rebbetzin. You imagine? Yekuyim bo, it should be realized in her. Chochmas Noshim Ban Sebeisa, the wisdom of women builds the home. And of course, in this case, it's not a home, it's a generation, the Rebbetzin. Al Yeseidei Kedesh HaKadoshim, the foundations of the holiest of the holies. V'tiyeh Beischem Pasuach L'Ravocha, your home should be open broad. L'chol Atev, to all of the good. Asher Birchu Eisanu Kulana, that we were all given brachas. By by our holy fathers, that their words are chayim b'chayamim, live and exist la'adu l'neitzach forever and ever and ever. L'chol shemrei pukudasam, to all those who follow their instruction. So the Rebbe says, I give you a bracha that all those brachas should reach you. But this seems, what does it seem? It seems mushy-feely. It seems romantic, you know. I have 2 married daughters. I would never say to one of my son-in-laws, contemplate the pearl David gave you. You know why? They never talk to me again. Or they'd beat up on my wife that I'm mixing into their personal matters, you know. I mean, the Rebbe and the Rebbe had a different relationship than me and my son-in-laws. But the Rebbe is right. So it sounds like the Rebbe is being very, what's the word, very paternal, very warm. This is the Friedrich Rebbe, people. And he's writing to the Rebbe about the Rebbetzin. And he says, for you to understand your pearl, you have to have Chochma Bina Das. And you have to have a bracha from the Eibishter to contemplate properly. The Friedrich Rebbe is saying to the Rebbe, you really need to sit down and think what you got. As if the Rebbe doesn't understand. I think this is awesome. It's serious. It's not just sweet and nice. Tati talking about his daughter to her husband to make him like her. This This is much, much more than that. That pearl is very, very unusual. Now, but there's one other thing. I told you this to you yesterday, Tuesday. The Rebbe marries the Rebbetzin. And the Frierdiker Rebbe is writing to them like parents to children. The Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, however, are not responding like children to parents. The Rebbe and the Rebbetzin are acting like this is Rebbe, right? That's why I told you that the Frierdiker Rebbe keeps on asking the Rebbe to write long letters. I told you this, right? But long letters detailing everything in his life, what's going on with this, what's going on with this. And not only the Rebbe doesn't write, the Rebbetzin doesn't write. That the Rebbe didn't write, the Rebbe's busy. But the Rebbetzin, her father says to read, tell me, write letters to me every day. She doesn't do it. She doesn't do it. And there has been a das tach, the pshat pashat is, the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin related to Frierdiker Rebbe as a father, but they also related to Frierdiker Rebbe as a Rebbe, and they knew how precious his time was. They weren't going to waste a second of his time. So he's asking them for something as a father, and they're not giving it as chassidim. And it goes back and forth for a while. Okay? So this is Nisan Tafresh Tzaddik, which means over a year after the Chasana. Over a year after the Chasana. The Frierdiker must have written 5 times or even more. Write to me letters. Tell me what's going on. Right? And you know what? I'll read this to you. Tochter Tayere, my precious daughter, Favos schreibst mir nicht. Why don't you write me letters? Ich bin dir geblieben, aber auf deinem alleinigen Brief. I owe you a debt for one of the letters you wrote to me. Was ich hab nicht geantwortet, that I didn't respond. Sei gesund und stark. Be good, be healthy and strong. Avicha oev rabbi gevul, your father loved infinitely. But you owe me letters. Why aren't you writing? And again, I don't know why they didn't write. I don't know. But in this book, you see again and again the Frierdiker Rebbe complains. And at a certain point, he stops. At a certain point, the Frierdiker Rebbe understands that they're not writing to him. And I assume that the Frierdiker Rebbe understood that the reason they weren't writing to him is not because they were lazy, but because they couldn't write to the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Rebbe's talked to them as a kinder. And they are taka kinder, but they're also chassidim. And they just can't respond. So here is an unbelievable, I'll get you in 1 minute. This is from the Rebbe to the Frierdiker Rebbe. I want to go through this book. I need time. And to call out just the Rebbe's letters to the Frierdiker Rebbe. It's not a lot. But the Rebbe writes the Frierdiker Rebbe with so much humility, it's almost painful. Listen to this. Beis Mechtavei Kfei Kudosh Hasei, the 2 letters that the Rebbe sent to me, he's writing to his father-in-law. Miresh Chedish V'yem Vav, L'Chedesh Ava, from Resh Chedesh, and from the 6th day of the previous month, B'teidik Yibalti, I got the letters and thank you. Kein Higiyuni El Nachan, I also received in the right time. Hamaymer Dach Anechi V'Gemer the Maymer Anechi. V'Akevitz the Yem HaYilula, the Beis L'Chedesh there, as well as the Kevitz for business. So the Frierdiker Rebbe sent the Rebbe a bunch of stuff, and the Rebbe writes, Umikerev Libi, and from the depths of my heart, Oide al shilucham li, I'm thanking the Frierdiker Rebbe for sending me the letters and the Maimer and the Kevitz. Now the Rebbe finally is answering the Frierdiker Rebbe. He's been ignoring the Frierdiker Rebbe for a year. The Frierdiker Rebbe keeps on asking, write letters, write letters, write letters. He doesn't respond. And as I told you, the Frierdiker Rebbe writes in one letter, which means the letters with many pages, I didn't get them yet, and I'm afraid they were never written. Here's the Rebbe's 2-paragraph response. Listen. Tam iksivasi. The reason I'm not writing to you as you wish. Hu hacheser b'murois mi'anyinim lohidia. I have a lack of interesting things to tell you. I don't have, my life's boring. Yeshna manoshim. There are some people that the center and the intensity of the life nimtza ba'olam ha'iyun is found in the world of iyun, of concentration, ba'olam harayan, and the world of thought. She'ikert noeseim, that all of the primary direction of their lives, shekol chayim isnaneya, every living thing has a direction. Mu'adim l'tzad pnim is looking inward. Laha'olam shenitan belibam, to the world which is in their own heart. V'loy laha'olam shemisaviv v'mechutza lahem, rather than to the world which is around and outside of them. The Rebbe says, some people, they walk into a room, they see everybody. Another person walks into the room, only sees what he needs. And then the Rebbe says, Acharei ha'akdama, at this introduction, Shegam be'enei atzmi le'nechtet alamayla yeseda, even in my own eyes, I don't consider this a positive attribute. But, hine, im mipnei tchunas nafshi, either because of my nature, or because of the environment I'm living in. The Rebbe was living in a modern secular city, Berlin, Germany, where the Rebbe didn't look around much. I'm one of those people who only looks inward. I don't see what's going on around me. And as long as I can remember, my life has always been poor from interesting events. I have a boring life. You know why? Because I don't pay attention to anything. I'm just my own world. So the Rebbe said, you know why I'm not writing to you? Because I have nothing interesting to say. I have nothing interesting to say. Right. And he finishes, that really matter to me. So the Rebbe is explaining to the Fiyadik Rebbe why he isn't responding. He said, I had nothing to tell you. And I think that's how it ends. You wanted to say something, go ahead.
Yeah. How is that not like keep it of an aim to, like if your father asks, like you're calling if your father's asking you so many times to like just share a little bit?
You are a wonderful person. I don't know your name, and I don't know who you're going to marry. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you're not going to be a Rebbetzin, and you're not going to marry a Rebbe. Just wild guess. That could be wrong, but I just have that suspicion, okay? Which means you are never going to be this close to this kind of greatness. When you're this close to kind of greatness, there's a whole school that doesn't exist that teaches you how to behave. You know what it means to be the daughter of a Rebbe? You have to be a daughter like you're a daughter. You have to love and you have to help and you have to support. But you think before every word comes out of your mouth. You think before every emotion. You're in the presence of, not the holies, the holiest of holies. So you're never going to be in that position. You're never going to be tested that way. You can't understand how that feels. You know, Benjamin Klein told me that I would think a thought and they would answer. Imagine being in the presence of a man who knows everything you're thinking. And whatever you think, he answers you like as if you're talking. Now imagine you had one of those wonderful thoughts that you don't want anybody to know that you have, yeah? So, thank God you're not marrying a Rebbe, your Shveder's not a Rebbe, you're going to just marry a regular nice guy, he's going to be a wonderful shlub, yeah, a wonderful chevman, but you know what I'm saying? And your Shveder is going to be nice people, but they're going to be like everybody else. Even your parents. Yeah, your parents are going to get old. You're going to be 82, your parents are 107. They're going to be old, they're going to be frail, and they're going to be weak. And one of your children's sick, and your mother calls you up and says, how is she doing? She's wonderful, yeah. No, I saw her, it doesn't look good. No, everything's fine. You're going to lie through your teeth. And that's going to be kibbud avim. Yeah? You come into your house, your mother's 97, your father's 104, your mother says, Tati doesn't look good, huh? He looks bad. No, it's amazing. And the guy's falling to pieces. And that's kibbud avim. Or your father's going to say to you, no, I forget everybody's name. No, you remember everybody. Oh, you're great. It's a lie. Now, your parents do that for you now, every day. Okay, now I don't know your parents, but as much as they criticize you, they bite their lip 10 times every time they say what they're thinking. On average. Again, I don't know you and I don't know your parents, so I don't want to start politics. Okay? It's called parenting. It's not called lying. When you are the daughter and son-in-law of a Rebbe, first of all, you're made from different stuff. Because a normal person cannot be this close to a Rebbe. It's impossible. It's like living in the Beis Hamikdash. You can't live in the Beis Hamikdash, you'll burn up. You have a whole different set of skills and a whole different dimension of wisdom that simply teaches you, how do you live in a palace? How do you be royal? It's a different life. And there's a lot of things that they do that we don't do. A lot of things that they do that they don't do that we do. Why? It's a different world. It's literally a different world. I guarantee you this, the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin didn't just not respond because it was easier. They thought about it and they probably discussed it. So how do we respond to the tate who wants me to write about whether the river outside Paris is rising or falling? What are we supposed to do? That we visited some museum? That we went to school and got this and this grade in our mathematics course? That we davened this and this shul and the chol didn't have any meat in it, or the kishke was not tasty enough? I promise you, they thought about this deliberately, very, very carefully. It's very serious. And they understood that this is the right way to behave. And that's what they did. This is the game. When you are subordinate to a rebbe, you're nothing. You're nothing. You know what the Friedrich Rebbe would say many years later about the Rebbe? I'm embarrassed next to him. The Friedrich Rebbe said about the Rebbe, Ich schäm sich von ihm. The Rebbe didn't want the Friedrich Rebbe to say that. He didn't want the Friedrich Rebbe to feel that. So he literally hid from his own shver who he is. You understand? So the Rebbe wasn't going to write, I'm sitting and learning Gemara all night and I'm studying Chassidus and I'm creating Chiddushei Torah. The Rebbe was not going to share. The only way the Friedrich Rebbe would talk to the Rebbe's gesund sein, would talk to the Friedrich Rebbe about his personal life, is if he's asking Shalos and Avoida. And you have those in this book too. Very beautiful how the Rebbe writes, I need help spiritually, I need help spiritually. But to share what he's doing, never. In the presence of the Rebbe, everybody's nothing. Especially the Rebbe. So what's he supposed to write? Doesn't leave too many options except the weather. Listen to this. Next.
Did the Rebbe notice and ever ask to for children?
You know, in this book, you don't see that. What you do see, I told you this last time, the Friedrich Rebbe writes them for brachas for children. I told you this. Yeah. Just for a few years. In every letter for Rosh Hashanah, for Yom Kippur, for Sukkot, all the special letters, the birthday letters, the Yom Kippur letters, he writes a bracha of Zarachar Yom. But by 1932-33, he stops already. In other words, 3-4 years after the wedding, he stops. The Rashag, I'm sorry, the Rebbe's father, Rebbe Leivik, writes it constantly. We have the Rebbe's father's letters to the Rebbe till he was arrested in 39. In every letter, in many letters, he writes a bracha for children. The Friedrich Rebbe stops after a relatively short time. We don't have any letters where the Rebbe asks for children for the Friedrich Rebbe. I'm sure they asked. I'm positive they asked. But we just don't have those. It may not have been letters. I mean, they were together a lot. You know, they went to the Rebbe a few times a year. They spent weeks, and they were his children. You know, they had access to him. I'm sure they asked for children. I think, I don't know. But you see the Rebbe write, the Friedrich Rebbe is writing to them, but only for a short time. Next letter. Tochter Tayira, my precious daughter. Listen, if your father would write to you like this, you'd love him forever. And you do, I'm sure. Alles in der Welt hat a Grenitz. Everything in the world has a limit. A gvul v'hefsek, a limit and an end. Eltenens ava pnimis. Parents' inner love to their children is built in Mugbalas, has no limits. Der Benkin is Grenitz. My longing to see you has no limits. The Friedrich Rebbe. He's so mushy. It's just mamish. But you have to remember that this is the Friedrich Rebbe. But that's how he writes. So full of love. The decision was made by Merkez. They felt they had no choice. But like I said, I will not judge people who are in the position to make such decisions. But I'd be a fool and an idiot not to read it. You know, they talked about the Rebbe's journal. Should the Rebbe's journal have been published? This is far more intimate, far more personal. They published it. I think they shouldn't have, but if they had to do it because people were starting to say that when the Rebbe was young, he was modern, which is just nonsense. So they published this book to discredit that idea. And Telushkin's book was commissioned for the same reason. Merkez hired Joe Telushkin to write a book about the Rebbe in the early years. They felt that it was necessary to dispel the stupidity that some academic who had a hatred for the Rebbe going back 50 years wrote a book trying to paint the Rebbe as this modern guy. I mean, his presumption is, there's a word for it I'm looking for, is that the Rebbe became a Rebbe because he was a failed engineer. Which is like, because he didn't succeed, he was a bad engineer. It's so stupid, it's not worth it. And people read that book. And people say it's academic. When we write a book, who are we? We're blinded. It's academic. So automatically it becomes true. The people in America felt that they had to answer, and they did a number of things. And one of them was published as volume, where you see that the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe were in touch every day. About the Frierdiker Rebbe's business. There's not one mention of physics. There's not one mention of engineering. It's all about the Rebbe's health, the Rebbe's Sfarim, the Rebbe's work. And so this is the decision that they made. And
Do we know why the Rebbe went to study that?
Why the Rebbe went to study that? In my opinion, why we don't know. But my opinion is so that a girl or a boy today who's not going to listen to him and go against his judgment and is going to go to college should possibly remain frum. That's why the Rebbe went. He didn't go for college. He went to make it kosher for other people. Okay, we're not having the conversation now. I'm just answering. We're not having the conversation now. Okay, next letter. This is from 1933. Now, girls, this is Pashut hysterical. It is. It's funny. Here we go. This is the date. Is the end of 33. Tes El Taf Gimel. Here. Zayndik in Marienbad. When I was in Marienbad, which is a city in Austria near Vienna, Sunday, Sunday, far unser Opfer. And before I left Marienbad to go back to probably Atvatsk, the Frierdiker Rebbe is writing to his daughter and his son-in-law. I had a visit with a man whose name is Mar Sofer Sheyechia, Mr. Sofer, from Paris. He lives in Paris, where you live. And is given in Karlsbad. He was in the city of Karlsbad, which is near Marienbad. As he came to see me. Is he coming today? So this guy, Mr. Sofer, and I, could you close that door, please? This guy, Mr. Sofer, came to see me in Marienbad, and the conversation developed. Hab ich ihm erzählt, Mikeach, Chasni, Yekiri, V'chavivi, Harav, Ramam, Ishech, and Nichbat Yichya. I described to this guy, the Rebbe, who's living in Paris, right? My precious son-in-law, my precious and beloved son-in-law, Harav, and the Rebbe's name, your husband. Is a given a wilde spoilers. I was overwhelmed. The Frierdiker explained to this guy what kind of mind the Rebbe has, what kind of personality the Rebbe has. And he says, will sich sehr bekommen, and he wants to get to know you. And the Frierdiker Rebbe apparently felt that this Mr. Sofer, he was probably very rich or very influential, could have helped the Frierdiker Rebbe in his work. So this guy was overwhelmed to hear that there's a Yid like the Rebbe living in Paris. And a sehr herzliche Mensch, he's a very emotional person, liebt sehr tevet, and likes to do a favor. Hat halt covet, he doesn't mind getting honor, he likes being honored. Oh, but as a ganz feiner Mensch, he's a rather decent person. Ich wollte sehr wollen, I would really like, says the Frierdiker Rebbe to his daughter and son-in-law living in Paris, 1933, mir so bekannt werden. You should get to know each other. Drum roll, please. Non mit reden, nicht mit schweigen. Know what that means? I want you to use words and stop with the silence. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes to the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, I want you to get to know the guy and open your mouth. Non mit reden, with words. Der Eis behalten sich vor Menschen, the Frierdiker Rebbe is writing to his children, the hiding from people bringt zu kein Sach nicht. It doesn't bring anything good. Ich weiß nicht, I don't understand. Mir verschafft das viel like mas nefesh. This causes me, so that you have much pain. Why are you living in Paris and making yourself a secret? Aderab, medav velen sein bekannt. It's you should desire for people to know who you are. Und in gewisse Sachen, and in certain things, und bei gewisse Gelegenheiten, under certain conditions, lasse sich der können. Make it easy for people to realize who you are. Mit einer gewissen interessanten Schmuz, with a certain interesting discussion, von gewisser Erklärung and explaining various different things, es wohl sehr viel gute Nutzen gebracht. It would be very beneficial for the Frierdiker Rebbe's work if the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin would stop acting like they're phantoms. But these words, mit reden, it's like, would you two stop hiding? The Frierdiker Rebbe is writing, would you two stop hiding? Let people get to know you. Now, after this letter, you think something changed? I think it did a little bit.
Listening to the Rebbe.
The Frierdiker Rebbe says, I need you to let people figure you out. I want people to respect you. I want people to know who you are. I want people to revere you. Stop with the hiding. That's what he's writing to them. So I think that in France they began to, I think a little bit they changed. But now, girls, the following, how much time do I got? 4 minutes. Oh, this is not good enough. I'm going to summarize it, okay? This is going to blow your mind. There was a man named Reinin, who was a good friend of the Rebbeim, who came to the Frierdiker Rebbe to discuss the possibility of making our Rebbe the chief rabbi of Paris. Okay? Because they wanted, there was a gemeinde, there was a community leadership in Paris, but it was quite modern. They wanted to make a more traditional community, and they were thinking to make the Rebbe Shai Tamavolt Harav, forgive me for saying it, Rab Menachem Mendel Shichye Gavolt, to become the chief rabbi of Paris. There's a committee that's gathered together from the people. They want to make a constitution, a whole thing. They want to make a new community, of like sort of a frumative community, and they want to offer the Rebbe the chief rabbinate of Paris. But chas v'shalom, they should ask the Rebbe, because the Rebbe would shrug with his shoulders and say, "I'm haaretz," or something like that. I don't speak Yiddish. So they asked the Frierdiker Rebbe. Now, girls, listen to this. Listen to this. Kinderliebe, my beloved children, ich hab gar kein Werte nicht areis zu sagen. I don't have the sufficient words to express. Was für a Simcha mir hat die Padlozhnie gemacht. How much happiness I got from the proposal. Wie glücklich ihr wollt gewesen. How happy and fortunate I would be wenn ihr wollt dem Vorschlag angenommen. If you would take the proposal and take the job as the chief rabbi of Paris. Und Hashem Yisborach wollt geholfen. And if Hashem were to help, und die Sach wollt sich beschaut, teuvel, mesachas, ausgeführt, that this thing would in a good and successful happen. The Frierdiker Rebbe is writing now. Remember, this is a father, but this is the Rebbe. Puden gesund, wollt mir zugekommen. Pounds and pounds of health would be added to me if you took this position. As wollt mir erfreut mein zerbrochene Hart, it would bring joy to my broken heart. Ich wende sich zu euch, Kinderliebe. I'm turning to you, my beloved children, mit a innerliche, tiefe Bakoshe, with an inner and deep request. So beten gleich, to the two of you together as one. Gut betrachten dem Vorschlag, to properly reconsider the proposal, gut vertiefen sich, and think about it deeply. Ich bed sehr, I'm requesting very much, baldig and entfer Kinderliebe, to answer me as quickly as possible, my precious children. Betracht sich ernst. Think about it seriously. He's on his knees. He's on his knees. And he's begging. And what does he say? I have a broken heart. You'll make me happy.
Tough position. Like, how could the Rebbe not have done it?
It's the, you see, this is the relationship. The Rebbe never became the chief rabbi of Paris. And my suspicion is, although it's not written in the notes, that initiate fell through. It wasn't, the Rebbe didn't turn this down. But the Frierdiker is Poshet begging him. Mama, she's begging him. I'm brokenhearted. My life's full of tzaddis. You want to give me a little health? A little nachas? Take the job. But he doesn't force him. He says, think about it. This doesn't need to be in print, but gosh, this is, gosh, huh? Okay, I'll see when I see you. Good Shabbos.